I am Maxine, age 65, and I never thought my own children would betray me like this. After 40 years of supporting them emotionally and financially, they called me a burden to my face in my own home. Their words cut deeper than any knife. But what they never expected was my response. By sunset that same day, I had removed their names from every account I owned. Let me tell you what happened next. Before I begin my story, where are you watching from today? Go ahead and subscribe to hear more stories about betrayal and independence from women like me who refuse to be discarded. Life had been good to me, or so I thought. After losing my husband Harold 8 years ago, I settled into a comfortable routine in our 6-bedroom beachfront villa in Naples, Florida. The house was almost too big for just me, with its sprawling tropical gardens and infinity pool overlooking the Gulf of Mexico. But I loved every inch of it. This was our dream home, the one Harold and I had worked our entire lives to afford. Before I tell you about how my children betrayed me, let me paint you a picture of our family. I have 3 grown children. Amanda. My oldest at 42 is a high-powered attorney at a prestigious law firm in Miami. She always has her perfectly manicured nails. In important cases, rarely has time for phone calls and speaks with the kind of calculated precision that makes you feel like you are being cross-examined rather than having a conversation with your daughter. Ethan. My 38-year-old son works as a stockbroker. He drives luxury cars, wears designer suits, and projects an image of success. What most people do not know is that his financial situation has always been precarious at best. He lives beyond his means and has a terrible habit of making risky investments that rarely pay off. My youngest, Jessica, is 35 and an artist. She has always been the most emotional of my children, sensitive and creative. Her paintings are beautiful, but her career has been a constant struggle. This has meant frequent financial emergencies and tearful phone calls asking for help. I never minded helping my children. After Harold died and left me with a substantial inheritance from his technology company, I saw it as my duty to support them however I could. When Amanda turned 40, I surprised her with a brand new luxury SUV. When Ethan racked up $50,000 in credit card debt after a bad investment, I paid it off without making him feel guilty. I funded Jessica's first art exhibition and helped each of them with down payments on their homes. Just last year, I took the entire family on a European vacation. Amanda and her husband Brian, their 2 teenage children, Ethan and his girlfriend of the month, Jessica, her partner Stephanie, and their 6-year-old daughter, Lily. 10 of us traveling first class to Paris, Rome, and Barcelona. I covered every expense: the hotels, the meals at fine restaurants, the private tours, the shopping excursions. It cost well over $100,000, but seeing my family happy made it worthwhile. I had always imagined that when I grew older and needed more help, I would split my time living with each of my children. A few months with Amanda in her spacious Miami home, then a few with Ethan in his downtown condo, and then with Jessica in her charming house near the Arts District. We had casually discussed this arrangement over the years, and they had always seemed amenable to the idea. At least that is what I thought. The evening after we returned from our European adventure, I sat alone in my villa, scrolling through photos of our trip on my tablet. The sunset painted the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks outside my floor-to-ceiling windows. I sipped a glass of Pinot Noir, feeling content with my life and grateful for my beautiful family. I had no idea that in just a few weeks, everything would change in ways I could never have imagined. I closed my eyes, listening to the gentle sound of waves outside, completely unaware of the storm that was brewing within my own family. How could I have known that the children I had given everything to were meeting behind my back, making plans to take control of my life and my money? The warning signs had been there, I suppose, but a mother never wants to believe the worst about her children. It was a Tuesday afternoon when Amanda called. Her voice had that clipped professional tone she uses when she has something important to discuss. "Mom, we need to have a family meeting this weekend. All three of us are coming over on Saturday. It is important." "Is everything okay?" I asked, immediately concerned. "We just need to discuss some things with you. In person." That was all she would say. I spent the next few days wondering what this could be about. Perhaps one of the children was ill, or maybe they wanted to plan a surprise party for my upcoming birthday. I even wondered if perhaps they wanted to thank me properly for the European vacation. I decided to make the evening special. I prepared all their favorites. Slow roasted prime rib for Ethan, who was always a meat and potatoes man, a delicate salad with goat cheese and roasted beets for health-conscious Amanda, and homemade lasagna for Jessica, who had loved my recipe since childhood. I opened a bottle of the expensive Cabernet Sauvignon I had been saving for a special occasion and set the formal dining room table with my best china and crystal glasses. They arrived together, which was unusual. Typically, Amanda would arrive early, Jessica would be late, and Ethan would show up exactly on time. The fact that they pulled up in Amanda's car, all three together, should have been my first clue that something was off. They entered with stiff smiles and awkward hugs. No one commented on the effort I had put into the meal or the beautiful table setting. The conversation during dinner was stilted, with none of the usual family banter or updates about their lives. After we finished eating, Amanda cleared her throat and pulled out a thick folder from her designer briefcase. My heart sank. This was not going to be a happy conversation. "Mom," she began, using the same tone I had heard her use in the courtroom during the one time I watched her in trial. "We have been concerned about you lately." "Concerned about what?" I asked, genuinely confused. She laid out papers on the table, neatly arranged like exhibits in a trial. "We have been talking about your future and how to ensure you are properly taken care of as you age." I felt my face flush. "I am 65, not 95. I am in excellent health, according to my doctor." Amanda continued as if I had not spoken. "This villa is much too large for a single person. The maintenance costs alone are exorbitant. The property taxes, the pool service, the gardening staff. It is simply not practical." Ethan jumped in then. "Plus, you are living here all alone. What if you fall? What if there is an emergency?" "I have a security system and wear a medical alert pendant when I swim alone." I responded, feeling defensive. Jessica reached across the table to take my hand. Her eyes were watery, always the most emotional of my children. "Mom, we are worried about your financial situation too. You have been spending a lot on us on trips on maintaining this lifestyle." Amanda nodded, pulling out more papers. "We have put together a comprehensive care plan for you. We think it would be best if you sold this villa and moved into a nice, manageable condo near my house. I have already looked at several suitable properties." I pulled my hand away from Jessica. "Sell my home." "The home your father and I built?" "Why would I do that?" Ethan sighed dramatically. "Mom, you have been making some impulsive financial decisions lately. That trip to Europe must have cost a fortune. The new car you bought last year. The remodeling of the kitchen." "Those were not impulsive decisions, I said firmly. "I can afford all of those things. Your father left me very well off." Amanda slid another document toward me. "We think it would be prudent to set up a trust. I would serve as trustee and help manage your assets to ensure you have enough to last through your retirement." The pieces suddenly clicked into place. This was not about my welfare. This was about my money. "So, you want me to sell my home, move into a small condo, and hand control of my finances over to you?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady, despite the anger building inside me. "It is for your own good," Amanda insisted. "You are getting older, and these decisions can be overwhelming." That was when I noticed Amanda's phone on the table screen lit up with a text message from her husband, Brian. She had not locked the screen when placing it down. The message was clearly visible. "Did she agree yet?" "We need that money for the summer house ASAP." My heart froze in my chest. I pointed to the phone. "What summer house, Amanda?" The color drained from her face as she grabbed the phone and quickly turned it over. But it was too late. I had seen it, and in that moment everything changed. "What summer house?" I repeated, my voice no longer calm but trembling with anger. "Is that what this is really about? You want my money for a summer house?" Amanda's practiced composure cracked slightly. "That is not what this is about, Mom. Brian and I have been looking at investment properties, but that has nothing to do with our concerns about you." "Then explain that text," I demanded. The three of them exchanged glances. Ethan ran his hand through his hair, a nervous habit he had had since childhood. Finally, he spoke. "Mom, I have had some financial setbacks recently. Some investments did not pan out the way I expected." "How much did you lose?" I asked bluntly. He looked at the floor. "About $200,000. $200,000? I gasped. "Where did you get that kind of money to invest in the first place?" "I leveraged my condo," he admitted. "And now I am behind on the payments. The bank is threatening foreclosure." I turned to Jessica, who had been unusually quiet. "And you? What financial emergency are you facing that has led to this ambush?" She burst into tears, another familiar pattern. "I had to borrow from Lily's college fund for my last exhibition. It did not sell well, and now I cannot replace the money." My mind was reeling. "So this is not about my welfare at all. This is about bailing the three of you out of your financial problems." "That is not fair," Amanda said sharply. "We are genuinely concerned about you, Mom. You are becoming a financial and emotional drain. Every time one of us calls you, want to talk for hours. You keep buying things for the grandchildren we cannot afford to maintain. You plan elaborate family gatherings that no one has time for." I felt like I had been slapped. "A drain. I am a drain on you." Ethan nodded. "Dad would be disappointed in how you are squandering his hard-earned money." That was the final straw. Harold would be disappointed, Harold, who had always trusted me with every financial decision throughout our marriage. "You have no idea what you are talking about," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "None of you do." "Mom, we have consulted with financial experts," Amanda said. "We even spoke to a geriatric care specialist about your living situation." "You what?" I could hardly believe what I was hearing. "We have been researching upscale retirement communities as well," Jessica added, as if this would somehow make me feel better. "And we have looked into the legal requirements for conservatorship," Amanda said, "just in case it becomes necessary." Conservatorship. I was stunned. "You want to declare me incompetent and take control of my affairs?" "Only if necessary," Amanda clarified, as if that made it better. "Dad always worried about you handling money on your own. He told me once that you were too generous for your own good." I stood up so abruptly that my chair nearly toppled backward. Without a word, I walked to my home office, my legs somehow carrying me despite the shock. I heard them murmuring to each other in my absence, probably assuming I was having some kind of emotional breakdown. I unlocked the bottom drawer of my desk and pulled out 2 items, a leather-bound photo album and a file folder containing financial documents. Then I returned to the dining room. I placed both items on the table and opened the photo album first. "This is your father and me when we were just starting out. Did you know we lived in a 1-bedroom apartment above a laundromat for the first 3 years of our marriage?" They stared at the photos, looking uncomfortable. "And did you know that I put your father through his MBA program by working 2 jobs? I was an elementary school teacher during the day and a bookkeeper at night." I opened the file folder next and laid out my certified public accountant license. "I was the one who managed every cent of our money from day one. I was the one who did the accounting for your father's startup in our kitchen every night after you kids went to bed." I pulled out more documents, partnership agreements from the early days of Harold's company. "I was a silent partner in the business. I helped design the financial structure that allowed the company to grow. I made the decision to diversify our investments before the tech bubble burst. which saved us from losing everything, like many of our friends did." Their faces registered shock. Apparently their father had never shared these details with them. "You do not know me at all," I said, my voice breaking slightly. "And you certainly do not know anything about my money. I want you all to leave," I said, my hands trembling, but my voice steady. "Now. Mom, be reasonable." Amanda started, but I cut her off. "Reasonable. You come into my home with a plan to take control of my life, my home and my money based on lies about being concerned for my welfare, and you expect me to be reasonable. We are just trying to help," Ethan protested, but his eyes would not meet mine. "Get out," I repeated. "All of you, now." They gathered their things in stunned silence. As they filed out the door, Jessica turned back with tears streaming down her face. "Mom, please, we love you." I closed the door without responding and leaned against it, listening to Amanda's car start and drive away. Only then did I allow the tears to come. I cried like I had not cried since Harold died, great heaving sobs that left me gasping for breath. I cried for the betrayal, for the realization that my children saw me not as their mother, but as a bank account with an expiration date. I did not sleep that night. I sat on my patio overlooking the ocean, watching the moon create a silver path across the water. By morning, my sadness had hardened into resolve. I showered, dressed in one of my best outfits, a cream-colored silk blouse and tailored navy slacks, applied my makeup carefully to hide the evidence of my sleepless night, and made a phone call. "Thomas Franklin's office. How may I help you?" a receptionist answered. "This is Maxine Reynolds. I need to speak with Thomas as soon as possible. It is urgent." Thomas had been our family attorney and financial advisor for over 30 years. He was one of the few people who knew the full extent of my involvement in building our family wealth. "Maxine, what a pleasure," Thomas said when I was put through. "What can I do for you today?" "I need to make some significant changes to my estate planning. How soon can you see me?" His tone changed, becoming more serious. "Is everything all right?" "No, Thomas, it is not, but it will be." 2 hours later, I sat in Thomas's wood-paneled office recounting the previous evening's events. His face grew increasingly grave as I spoke. "I suspected something like this might be brewing," he admitted when I finished. "Amanda has called me several times in the past month asking about your financial arrangements. Ethan, too. I declined to discuss your affairs with them, of course." "They never told me they had contacted you," I said. "I am not surprised." Thomas leaned back in his chair. "What do you want to do, Maxine?" "I want to protect myself and what Harold and I built together. I want to remove my children as beneficiaries from most of my accounts and revise my will." Thomas nodded. "We can do that. It might take a few days to process everything." "I want it done today," I said firmly. "Whatever can be done immediately, I want it done now." We spent the next 6 hours restructuring my estate. I removed all 3 children as authorized users on my accounts. I changed the beneficiaries on my investment portfolios and insurance policies to a set of charitable foundations with only a small percentage going to each child. I established separate trust funds for my grandchildren that would be accessible when they turned 25, with the stipulation that neither Amanda nor Jessica could serve as trustees. By sunset, as promised, their names had been removed from every account I owned. I felt no joy in this, only a heavy sadness mixed with determination. That evening I called each of my children and calmly informed them of what I had done. I did not yell or cry. I simply stated the facts. "You made it clear yesterday that you do not trust me to manage my own affairs," I told Amanda. "So I have taken steps to ensure that my affairs are arranged according to my wishes, not yours." "This is ridiculous," she sputtered. "We were trying to help you. I will contest this in court." "You are welcome to try," I replied. "Thomas has documented my mental competence thoroughly." Ethan was furious. "You are being selfish and vindictive," he accused. "What am I supposed to do about my condo now?" "You are a grown man, Ethan. Figure it out." Jessica begged and pleaded. "Mom, please. I need that money for Lily, for her future." "Lily's educational trust fund is still intact," I assured her. "But you will not have access to it." After these difficult conversations, I blocked their numbers. I would communicate with them only through email if necessary. I needed space to think, to heal, to plan my next steps. Within a week, I had hired a new security company to install upgraded systems throughout the villa. I had the locks changed on the gates and all the doors. I instructed the staff that my children were not to be admitted without my express permission. Then I made another decision. I booked a flight to Italy, a place Harold and I had always talked about living in our retirement years. We had visited Florence, Venice, and the Amalfi Coast many times, and had often discussed buying a small property there. Harold died before we could make that dream a reality, but there was nothing stopping me from exploring it on my own. Italy embraced me like an old friend. I rented a beautiful apartment in Florence for the first 2 weeks, with a terrace overlooking the Arno River. Each morning I would sit with my espresso and pastry watching the city come to life. For the first time in months, I felt my shoulders relax and my mind quiet. I spent my days wandering through museums and churches, rediscovering the art I had loved since college, but had rarely made time for in recent years. I took long lunches at small trattorias, enjoying the ritual of unhurried meals. I shopped for fresh food at local markets and taught myself to cook authentic Italian dishes. During my second week, I met Elizabeth, a British widow about my age who was also traveling alone. We struck up a conversation at a cafe near the Uffizi Gallery and discovered we had much in common. Both of us had lost husbands after long marriages, both had grown children, and both were navigating this new chapter of life. "My children think I should be sitting at home knitting and waiting for them to visit when they can fit me into their busy schedules," Elizabeth told me over glasses of Chianti one evening. "They were horrified when I sold my house in Surrey and decided to travel. My children tried to take control of my finances and sell my home," I confided, surprised at how easily I could share this painful story with her. "Good Lord, what did you do?" "I cut them off and came to Italy." Elizabeth raised her glass in a toast. "Good for you, Maxine. It is about bloody time we lived for ourselves." Over the next few days, Elizabeth introduced me to a group of women she had met through an online forum for solo female travelers, over 60. We began meeting for dinner, sharing stories and advice. These women came from different countries and backgrounds, but all shared a common experience, reclaiming their independence after decades of putting others first. Inspired by these new friendships, I started a blog called Second Bloom, where I wrote about my experiences and reflections on life after 60. To my surprise, the blog quickly gained followers. Women from around the world commented on my posts, sharing their own stories, and thanking me for giving voice to their experiences. A month into my stay, a lifestyle magazine contacted me about featuring my story in an article about women redefining retirement. The interview was published online, and my blog traffic exploded. I started receiving invitations to speak at women's groups and retirement planning seminars. Instead of returning to Florida as planned, I decided to extend my stay in Italy. I found a charming stone cottage to rent in a small Tuscan village with a garden full of herbs and a view of rolling vineyards. I signed a 2-month lease with an option to extend. I enrolled in an Italian language course at a local cultural center and joined a cooking class taught by an elderly woman who had been making pasta by hand for over 70 years. I bought canvases and paints and set up an easel in the garden, returning to the art I had abandoned when I married and started raising children. Occasionally, I checked my email. Messages from my children had been coming in steadily, their tone evolving from angry to desperate as their financial situations worsened. Amanda wrote that Brian had filed for divorce and was seeking a substantial settlement. Without access to my funds, she was struggling to pay her legal fees. Ethan had lost his job after missing too many days dealing with his housing crisis. He was staying on a friend's couch and could not afford the security deposit for a new apartment. Jessica had been forced to cancel her upcoming exhibition because she could not pay the gallery fees. She and Stephanie had been arguing about money putting strain on their relationship. I responded briefly to each of them, acknowledging their messages, but not offering solutions. I told them I was still processing what had happened and needed more time. Meanwhile, my life in Italy was blossoming in unexpected ways. I became friends with Antonio, the owner of the local restaurant where I often dined. A widower in his late 60s, he had kind eyes and a gentle manner that reminded me a little of Harold. He taught me to make his grandmother's ragu recipe and introduced me to his extended family, who welcomed me warmly despite my limited Italian. One evening, as Antonio walked me home after dinner, he asked if I might consider staying in Italy permanently. "You seem happy here, Maxine. More relaxed than when you first arrived." "I am happy here," I admitted. "I feel like I am finally living for myself." "Then why go back?" It was a good question. What was waiting for me in Florida? A beautiful but empty house. Children who saw me as a resource rather than a person. Here I had found community and purpose. I had found myself again. After 3 transformative months in Italy, I returned to Florida with mixed emotions. While I had fallen in love with my life in Tuscany, I needed to deal with my home and my family situation properly before making any permanent decisions. Walking into my villa after such a long absence was strange. It felt both familiar and foreign, like visiting a place from a distant memory. During my time away, I had arranged for some renovations. My home office, which I rarely used, had been converted into an art studio with north-facing windows for perfect light. The backyard had been partially redesigned with a Mediterranean garden, complete with olive trees and lavender. These changes were symbolic of my internal transformation. I was no longer just Harold's widow or Amanda Ethan and Jessica's mother. I was Maxine Reynolds, artist-writer, traveler, and woman finding her voice. A week after my return, as I was painting in my new studio, the security system alerted me to visitors at the gate. The camera showed all 3 of my children standing together, just as they had on that fateful day 3 months earlier. I hesitated, then pressed the intercom. "What do you want?" "Mom, please." Amanda's voice crackled through the speaker. "We need to talk to you." I considered turning them away, but realized this confrontation was inevitable. "Come in." I met them in the living room, standing rather than sitting, not offering refreshments or making small talk. They looked worse than when I had left. Amanda's perfectly maintained appearance showed signs of strain, her hair lacking its usual glossy finish, dark circles visible beneath her eyes, despite careful makeup. Ethan's designer clothes had been replaced by jeans and a plain button-down shirt that looked slightly rumpled. Jessica seemed thinner, her artist's hands fidgeting nervously with the strap of her worn handbag. "You look well, Mom," Amanda began awkwardly. "The trip must have agreed with you." "It did," I replied simply. "Why are you here?" They exchanged glances before Amanda spoke again. "Our situations have become difficult." "I gathered that from your emails." "The divorce is getting ugly," Amanda admitted. "Brian is claiming half of everything, including my retirement accounts. My firm has put me on probation because I have been distracted at work. The legal fees are mounting." Ethan jumped in. "I lost my condo. The bank foreclosed. My credit is ruined. I have been staying with friends, but I have worn out my welcome." "The gallery dropped me," Jessica said, her voice barely above a whisper. "They said I was too much of a financial risk. Stephanie and I are fighting constantly about money. We can barely make rent." "I am sorry to hear about your troubles," I said, and I meant it. Despite everything, these were still my children, and their pain did not bring me joy. But I do not understand what you expect me to do about it. We were wrong. Amanda said the words clearly difficult for her to say. What we did, what we said to you. It was wrong. You are not a burden, financial or emotional. We miss you, Jessica added. Lily keeps asking when she can see Grandma again. We want to make things right, Ethan said. I remained silent, waiting. There had to be more to this apology. Amanda took a deep breath. We were wondering if we could maybe stay here with you, just until we get back on our feet. And there it was. After all their talk about my villa being too big and impractical, they now wanted to move in. The irony was almost painful. You want to live here? I asked, making sure I understood correctly. All of you. Just temporarily, Amanda clarified quickly. I would bring the kids. Ethan needs a place to stay while he job hunts. Jessica and Stephanie are facing eviction next month. So, after trying to force me out of my home and take control of my money, you now want me to take you all in and support you. I kept my voice level, not angry, but not yielding either. When you put it that way, it sounds terrible, Jessica said, tearing up. That is because it is terrible, I replied. Do you have any idea how much you hurt me? Do you understand that you betrayed my trust in the most fundamental way possible? No one spoke for a long moment. Finally, Ethan broke the silence. We were desperate, Mom. We made a terrible mistake. We are sorry. Sorry because you genuinely regret your actions, or sorry because your plan backfired and now you need my help. They had no good answer for that. I am not going to let you move in, I said firmly. That is not happening. Not now. Possibly not ever. Their faces fell in unison. However, I continued, I am willing to discuss rebuilding our relationship under certain conditions. What conditions? Amanda asked cautiously. First, each of you will need to work with a financial planner to develop a sustainable budget and plan for your futures. I will pay for the financial planner, but I will not bail you out of your current situations. Second, if we are to repair our relationship, we all need to attend family counseling together. I have found a therapist who specializes in family estrangement. Third, my financial arrangements remain as they are. The trusts for the grandchildren are secure, but none of you will have access to my accounts or decision-making authority over my assets. Ever. And finally, I need to see genuine effort from each of you to rebuild trust. That will take time and consistent action, not just words. Jessica looked up, her eyes still wet with tears. What about Lily's college fund? The educational trusts for all the grandchildren are intact, I assured her. That money is set aside for their futures and cannot be touched by anyone, including me. What about your will? Ethan asked bluntly. My estate planning is none of your business, I replied. You have forfeited the right to that information. They accepted my terms with varying degrees of grace. Amanda seemed relieved that I was willing to engage at all. Ethan was clearly disappointed that no immediate financial help would be forthcoming. Jessica appeared genuinely contrite, though I had seen her tears manipulate situations too many times to fully trust them. As they prepared to leave, Amanda paused at the door. Your blog is really good, Mom. I had no idea you could write like that. It was the first genuine compliment she had given me in years, untainted by obligation or expectation. Thank you, Amanda. After they left, I poured myself a glass of the Brunello di Montalcino I had brought back from Tuscany and went out to sit by the pool. My phone rang, displaying Antonio's number from Italy. Ciao, Bella, his warm voice came through. How was the reunion with your children? About as difficult as expected, I replied, but maybe a step in the right direction. And what direction is that, Maxine? The direction where they see me as a person with my own life and dreams, not just their mother and personal ATM. Antonio chuckled. And when will you return to Tuscany? My tomatoes miss you almost as much as I do. I smiled watching the sunset paint the sky in the same colors as the Italian countryside. Soon, I promised. Very soon. 6 months later, I hosted a family dinner at a restaurant in Naples. Neutral territory seemed appropriate for this gathering, our first since establishing our new boundaries. The past half year had brought significant changes for all of us. Through the financial planners, I had connected them with each of my children, had begun the difficult work of restructuring their lives. Amanda had accepted a position at a smaller law firm with more reasonable hours and expectations. The pay was less, but so was the pressure. Her divorce had been finalized, and while she had to downsize to a smaller home, she seemed more at peace. She had even started dating again, bringing her new boyfriend Mark to dinner. He was a high school history teacher, quite different from her ambitious ex-husband. Ethan had found a job with a boutique investment firm that focused on ethical investing. He lived in a modest apartment and drove a used car instead of the luxury vehicles he once leased. He was attending Debtors Anonymous meetings, and for perhaps the first time in his adult life, living within his means. Jessica had taken a position teaching art at a community center. While less glamorous than gallery exhibitions, she found unexpected fulfillment in sharing her passion with others. She and Stephanie had worked through their financial conflicts and were raising Lily with a healthier attitude toward money than Jessica had grown up with. As for me, my life had expanded in ways I never anticipated. My blog had been developed into a book, Blooming Late, Finding Yourself After 60, scheduled for publication in the spring. I had purchased a small stone cottage in the Tuscan village, where I had rented before and was planning to split my time between Florida and Italy. And yes, Antonio and I had grown closer. He was visiting next month, and I was both nervous and excited to introduce him to my family. Our bi-weekly family therapy sessions had been challenging but productive. We had excavated years of unspoken expectations and assumptions. My children shared that they had always seen me as dependent on Harold, never realizing my central role in building our financial security. I confessed that I had enabled their financial irresponsibility by always being the safety net, never allowing them to experience the consequences of their actions. "The book cover looks amazing, Mom," Jessica said, examining the advance copy I had brought to dinner. "I cannot believe they used one of my paintings for the background." "It was the perfect image," I replied, "and it means a lot to have your art as part of my project." "When do you leave for Italy again?" Ethan asked. "Next week. I will be there for 3 months before coming back for the book launch." "And Antonio will be here next month." Amanda raised an eyebrow suggestively. I felt myself blush. "Yes, he is eager to see Florida and to meet all of you." "Grandma has a boyfriend," sang Amanda's daughter Taylor, now 13, and delighting in any opportunity to tease adults. "He is a very good friend." I corrected, though everyone at the table could see through my attempt at downplaying the relationship. Over dessert, I proposed a small family vacation at the villa during the summer. Everyone would have to contribute to expenses, I added, but it would be nice to spend some time together at the beach. The suggestion was met with enthusiasm, though I noticed the momentary calculation in their eyes as they considered the financial commitment. This was new territory for us, planning a family gathering where I was not automatically expected to foot the bill. As I looked around the table, I felt a complex mix of emotions. The pain of their betrayal had not completely healed, and perhaps never would. But something new was growing in its place, a relationship based on more honest foundations, with clear boundaries and mutual respect. The journey had been painful but necessary. At 65, I had discovered parts of myself that had been dormant for decades. I had found strength I did not know I possessed, and built a life that reflected my own desires rather than others' expectations. That night, back in my studio, I worked on a new painting while reflecting on the lessons of the past year. My phone pinged with a message from Antonio, a photo of sunrise over his vineyard with the text, "Soon this view will be yours too." I smiled, thinking about the parallel transformations in my family relationships and in my sense of self. Both required letting go of old patterns and having the courage to create something new. Looking back on that painful family meeting a year ago, I can scarcely believe how much has changed. The day my children called me a burden turned out to be the day I truly began to live for myself. When I first cut my children off financially, the hurt was almost unbearable. I cried myself to sleep for weeks, wondering if I had made a terrible mistake. The initial pain was sharp and raw, like a physical wound that throbbed with every heartbeat. But slowly, as I created space for myself in Italy and reconnected with dormant passions, the healing began. I learned that forgiveness does not mean forgetting or allowing the same patterns to continue. It means releasing the anger while still protecting yourself from further harm. My children have changed too. Our family therapy sessions revealed patterns that stretched back to their childhood. Amanda's controlling nature stemmed from insecurity about measuring up to her father's expectations. Ethan's reckless spending was an attempt to create the appearance of success he thought would earn approval. Jessica's emotional dependence reflected her fear of abandonment. Understanding these patterns did not excuse their behavior, but it helped us address the root causes rather than just the symptoms. For the first time, we began to see each other as complete people, flawed and complex, rather than just fulfilling family roles. The boundaries I established have remained firm. My home is mine, my finances are under my control, and my time is my own to allocate as I choose. But within those boundaries, we have found new ways to connect. Amanda calls weekly not to ask for money, but to discuss my book and her new relationship. Ethan seeks advice about ethical investments, acknowledging my financial expertise rather than dismissing it. Jessica and I paint together, sometimes two artists sharing a passion, rather than mother and daughter locked in cycles of need and resentment. My relationship with Antonio has blossomed into something beautiful and unexpected. At our age, we are not interested in rushing or playing games. We enjoy each other's company, support each other's independence, and find joy in sharing our lives while still maintaining our separate identities. My grandchildren perhaps show the most promising changes of all. They are growing up, seeing their grandmother as a woman with her own dreams, talents, and adventures. I hope this vision of aging will stay with them, showing them that life can continue to unfold in new and wonderful ways at every stage. The greatest lesson I have learned is that it is never too late to stand up for yourself, to draw healthy boundaries, and to pursue joy. For decades, I defined myself primarily through my relationships to others, as a wife, mother, and grandmother. Now, I embrace those roles alongside my identity as an individual, with my own right to happiness and self-determination. To those watching who may be facing similar situations, please hear this. You are not a burden. Your age does not diminish your worth or your right to make your own decisions. The wisdom you have accumulated over decades is valuable beyond measure, and it is never, ever too late to begin again. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family members who took you for granted? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe to hear more journeys of renewal and self-discovery. And remember, sometimes the people who should appreciate you the most are the ones who need the clearest boundaries. Thank you for listening to my story. May you find the courage to bloom wherever you are planted, no matter your age.